The 2025 JEREZ MotoGP test was an extraordinary drama, with Marc Marquez putting in an extraordinary performance and Pecco Bagnaia encountering a worrying problem. Amid the tension, the Ducati team seemed split in two, leaving a huge question mark ahead of the next race. Will Marquez's dominance continue to waver, while Ducati is threatened by its own internal conflict? Let's discuss it. The main highlight was the striking difference between Ducati's two main stars, Marc Marquez and Pecco Bagnaia. This session was not just an experiment. For Marquez, it was a statement. A reset. You could even call it an act of atonement. Although Ducati have taken all the wins this season, an interesting fact has been revealed. They have never used the full GP25 package in a race. Even stranger, their two heroes took completely different paths despite riding the same machine. Marc Marquez, the six-time world champion, has been brilliant but inconsistent. He has crashed out of two of the last three races, raising the question of whether Ducati have relied too much on raw speed at the expense of stability. Meanwhile, Pecco Bagnaia, two-time world champion and Ducati's main mascot, has been sluggish. He admitted to losing confidence, calling the Ducati bike unpredictable. His riding style has looked stiff, lacking the aggression and fluidity that used to be his trademark. And the answer came from Marc Marquez. At the JEREZ test he was the fastest rider, not just once, but in both sessions, morning and afternoon. His time of 1 foot 35.876 inches was set in windy conditions and more than 0.3 of a second ahead of Maverick Vinales, KTM, in second. More than just a number, this performance was a psychological blow, just one day after his crash in the Spanish GP. The good thing is that this test came right after the mistake on Sunday, said Marquez. I can confirm the positive feeling of the weekend. We were fast all day. Marquez completed 79 laps, more than almost any other rider. His focus? No major changes. He stuck with the old chassis, no frame changes. He simply refined what he already believed in, the electronics, the Michelin tires, and the feel of the front end. We have a long plan with a lot of little things. There are no big things. But the details are important, he said. He tried out new electronic software. Some of the results have been positive. Marquez's approach was not to revolutionize, but rather to make the most of the existing package. And the result is that he is now just 1 point behind his younger brother Alex Marquez in the standings. It wasn't just a test result. It was a warning. A declaration of war. The contrast was stark for Pecco Bagnaia. He was 19th on the combined timesheet. No impressive times, no great runs, just 64 laps of almost aimless searching. Our list is very short, admitted Bagnaia. We focused on finding a setup that would make me more comfortable in the fast corners. But the strong wind made it difficult to understand. And in the midst of this frustration, Bagnaia and his team finally made a bitter decision, to return to the standard setup and try the components that Marquez had been using all this time. Components that he had previously rejected outright after the chaotic test in Thailand. We decided to go back to the standard setup and try the things that Marc had been using since the beginning, he said. I had let go before because the test in Thailand was a complete mess. A surprising admission, that Ducati's main icon is now following in Marquez's footsteps. It could leave Ducati's top brass speechless. Pecco, the rider who had been positioned at the heart of the project, was now at a loss and dependent on the newcomer's approach. Nevertheless, Pecco tried to remain optimistic. I'm happy with some things and will take them to Le Mans. The rest we will try again. Maybe the swing arm, but certainly not the chassis changes, he concluded. Behind Ducati's extraordinary dominance on track, a much more complicated story was unfolding inside the proud red garage of Italy. On the surface they looked solid, strong and unwavering. But the reality was not so pretty. Slowly but surely, the scent of disunity began to waft from behind the paddock walls. Their garage was being divided, not physically, but in philosophy and direction of development. So far, the factory team has never used the JEREZ GP25 in full configuration. This is not due to technical unpreparedness, but rather due to the very strict testing rules in MotoGP this season. The only opportunity to test the full potential of their latest bike was at the JEREZ test. That's where all the new elements, both hardware such as the chassis and aerodynamics, as well as software in the electronic system, came together for the first time. However, the results of the test actually showed a deepening gap between the two poles in the team, Marc Marquez and Pecco Bagnaia. Marquez, the new recruit with a lot of experience and killer instinct, seemed to be able to adapt more quickly to the character of the GP25. He pushed the bike's limits to levels never before touched, showing that Ducati has potential that the team itself may not even be aware of. In contrast, Pecco Bagnaia, a two-time world champion and symbol of the success of Ducati's long-term project, seemed to have difficulty finding the right rhythm. He was uncomfortable with some of the changes in the bike's character. His feeling was gone. His body language on the bike is not as harmonious as before. And unfortunately, in the competitive world of MotoGP racing, losing feeling means losing everything. Outside of the Ducati drama, several other teams have also shown significant developments that are worth noting. KTM should smile broadly. Maverick Vinales appeared confident, recording the second-best time and completing 89 laps during the test session. He focused on refining the weak sectors, especially Sector 1, which was previously a problem point. Now, within the team, Vinales has become a new benchmark for other KTM riders. His speed and consistency on the track are in the spotlight, and he is believed to be a serious threat in the 2025 season. Pedro Acosta, who made his debut this season, also showed a solid performance despite still being in the process of adapting. Despite an accident, he managed to finish fifth and complete 48 laps. Acosta proved that he can compete at the highest level and is ready to put pressure on the older riders. Meanwhile, Yamaha, which has been in a slump for the last 2 seasons, is finally showing signs of revival. They brought a new inline 4-cylinder engine that showed great promise. Fabio Quartararo, known for his aggressive riding style, finished third fastest and said that the 4 days in Jerez were the best in the last 3 years. The new engine proved to be a significant improvement, both in terms of speed and the Frenchman's renewed confidence. Aprilia, despite being without the injured Jorge Martin, focused more on aerodynamic and braking experiments. Marco Bezzecchi, who replaced Martin, tried a new swing arm and a different wing package. Although a lot of data was collected, the results still did not provide a definitive answer regarding the potential of the Aprilia engine this season. Meanwhile, Honda are still in the dark. They brought a new swing arm and included Takaki Nakagami and rookie Somkiat Chantra in their tests. However, despite high hopes, the results were nil. Chantra even crashed and suffered physical problems, adding to the burden of a team struggling to find a direction. One day of testing may not be enough to change the direction of a championship. But in Jerez, under the scorching Andalusian sun that burned the asphalt and the ambition, a powerful signal was sent throughout the paddock. Marc Marquez had spoken. Not with words, but with speed. With gestures, with lap times, with the look in his eyes behind his visor. The message was clear, direct and electrifying. I'm not here to participate. I'm here to win. It wasn't just a statement. It was a declaration of war. For Pecco Bagnaia, for Jorge Martin, for anyone who stood between him and the World Championship. Marquez didn't play around. Every lap he did on the test track was a warning. Every sector he mastered was a reminder of who he was, an 8-time world champion back in top form, with new weapons that were beginning to blend into his fighting style. Would the red team be able to regroup, or would they fall further apart? Write your thoughts below.